Yasmin, one thing and one thing only, public confidence. If you have officers who are under suspicion for something as significant as this, certainly what you want to do is you want to get them home, suspend them with pay, look into it, and in the event they're found that there's no wrongdoing, return them to duty. But you don't want officers out there when you have no knowledge or idea what, if anything, they did wrong. Better to err on the side of caution, bridge that gap in community trust.
Joey, you know, a lot of people, they think the suspension is not going far enough. Noel tweeted, 6 officers should be fired immediately. Freddie Gray's spine did not break itself. Stop Baltimore police brutality. Now, I want to point out that there's no proof of police brutality here. That's what is actually being investigated. Let's all look at this video again, Joey. And it looks like when you're looking at this video that initially even Gray is not able to use his legs. Right there, he's being pulled up. And there's 2 missing pieces of evidence, right? We have the video of Gray after the arrest, after he's been apprehended and being walked or dragged, shall we say, to the van. We don't have video of what happened before he was apprehended, and his lawyer says he was tackled, while Baltimore officials say that he actually surrendered to police, or there was no sort of police brutality leading up to the arrest. And then we don't have video of what happened inside the van. From what we understand, the mayor said, or police commissioner said, that he was talking when he went inside the van, but once he came out of the van, he was no longer talking. So many missing pieces here, Joey.
Oh, yeah, well, they'll put the pieces together. First issue to the tweet in terms of a suspension. Now, we don't know. The suspension, ultimately, may be the least of these officers' concerns, but to be fair, it'll be fully investigated, and if any officer is found to have engaged in wrongdoing, they will be dealt with accordingly. Now, in terms of the evidence, there are things we know, there's much we don't know, and certainly, to your point, Yasmin, not only does it look like he has an inability to walk, but if you listen to the video, someone is saying, his legs, it appears as though his legs. And there you see protesters, because the community certainly is up in arms. And so, ultimately, they'll get to the facts. Now, there's a release of the information of who these officers are. And I want to hasten to add, though, in releasing the names of the officers, there could be officers, when you dig, that have sketchy pasts, that have done no wrongdoing here. There could be officers who have an unblemished past, who did everything here. Or the officers could have collectively engaged in wrongdoing, or none of them could. And so, ultimately, we have to wait and see what this shows. Next point to be made here. Autopsy report is going to be very significant. How do you sever your neck 80% severed at the time, and how do you go in being able to talk, as Gray was, and then when you leave, you can neither breathe nor can you talk. And so all of that has to be ferreted out, and the police department, in engaging in this investigation, needs and owes it to the community to do so.
And that's why I think it's so crucial that we don't have those 2 major pieces of evidence. It seems it's going to rely so much on sort of what the police are saying and what bystanders are saying as to what happened.
Well, more than that, though, because, you know, in terms of relying upon the police, there's a police report that says that he was apprehended without incident.
Right.
Really? So if he's apprehended without incident, how is it that his neck gets severed in the way that it does? The other thing is that you can say anything, but you have to rely upon the physical evidence, and the autopsy is going to show the nature of this injury. How is it sustained? How? What kind of force? What kind of pressure? How, in general, does a neck get in that condition? Who applied it? When did they apply it? Did it happen on the way to transport? Did something happen before that? So all of these things will have to be pieced together for us to have a better understanding of whether there was criminality here. And I say criminality because certainly the suspension, they're suspending now, but in the event that there's found that something happened, we don't know. But I think that you could look forward to these police officers in the event that there is wrongdoing, facing criminal prosecution, if that's the case.
Yeah, Joey, I want to turn our attention now to Baltimore Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake, who told CNN's New Day that the number of lawsuits and complaints being brought against her police department have gone down during her term, during her administration. But she did admit to at least one mistake in the Gray case.
We know that he asked for medical attention. We know that that medical attention was not immediately requested for him. We know that was a mistake.
Now, the mayor tweeted the following: "I take very seriously my obligation of transparency. We will provide the community, most importantly the Gray family, with answers that they deserve." This is the kind of thing that you normally don't see out of a mayor, though, Joey. Most people would agree that transparency is good in most cases, but does admitting this sort of mistake on the record before the investigation is PD in a very precarious legal situation?
It does, Ali, and it's a great point. But you have to balance that if you're the mayor against the public trust and the public's right to know something went wrong here. So are you just going to back your officers and say we did everything right? Or are you going to admit to the obvious and sustain your credibility by saying, you know what, there were errors, there were issues, there were problems. We didn't do everything we possibly could do. People are protesting. We showed just a few minutes ago the protesters, their concern. And so the mayor has to somehow, on the one end, balance the right of the community to know and to want to understand what occurred, and of course the civil suits which are going to follow concerning what did occur here.
Well, and I think we've seen with the Michael Brown case and the Eric Garner case that transparency was certainly not at the forefront. And so I think to a certain extent we should say that it's actually good that we're seeing